This is the story of a teacher who drives a normal car and lives in a normal house with his 2 cats. His name was Gary Johnson. Along with being a teacher, Gary was very good in electronics, which is why he also does undercover work with the police department, like setting up cameras and recording, due to which he gets extra income. Then one day he had to become a fake hitman in connection with a similar case, because the man who became a fake hitman escaped from the criminal. Had to meet, he has been suspended. Gary goes to the meeting posing as a hitman. He had seen many such cases, so Gary knew what to say at what time. Gary assured the man that he was actually a hitman who had killed many murders. That man also gave work and money to Gary. Now all this was being recorded in the camera and mic, so as soon as Gary and this man came out, the police came and arrested that man with all the evidence. The team was also very impressed after seeing Gary's appearance, and Gary also found this thing different from his normal life. He was a psychology teacher who likes to know about the nature of new people, so through this work, he got to know new people and became a hitman by taking different forms of people according to their nature, beyond which people can trust at first sight. If anyone asks about the hitman anywhere, then this news is given to the police department. Who would have given this news to Gary? And Gary would have become a hitman by taking the form of those people. As soon as he would talk to them and collect evidence, the police would arrest them. Sometimes he would get old rich women arrested and sometimes teenage children. Sometimes he would go as Patrick Batman and sometimes as a Russian. Along with this, Gary's teachings were also going on, but one day his ex-wife Alicia came to meet him. Even after the divorce, Alicia is a good friend of Gary. Knew about all the work, she tells Gary that along with work, now you should also date a girl. On the other hand, Jasper, an officer of the zone, was suspended a few days ago. He is back. Jasper is back in his job. Wanted to take the post of a fake hitman, but according to the rest of his team, Gary has now started doing better work than Jasper. Jasper does not get the post of hitman, so along with this, Gary gets the case of a girl named Madison. Prepared accordingly, Ron comes to meet her in the form of the hitman. Madison wanted to get her husband killed because she was fed up with him. Her husband would not let Madison do any work, so much so that she could not even eat what she wanted. She was scared of her husband. Here, Gary liked Madison. She was not a girl who wanted to kill anyone. She was just forced by her husband. Gary and Madison started talking to each other. They both were getting along well. Then a call came from Madison's husband. Madison quickly gave the money to Gary and started leaving from there, but Gary tells Madison not to go back home. Start a new life for yourself with the money you are giving me and divorce your husband. Gary comes back to all this. His team is very angry at him. What have you done? But Jace also starts saying that he let the criminal go just like that, but still Gary continues on his work. Sometimes he would appear in the court in the cases of the people he had caught, where they would stare at Gary if he was proven guilty. Sometimes he would again take on a new look and get people caught, but then one day he got a message from Madison, who told him about one of her new dog programs. Although Gary should not have gone there, but he arrives disguised as Ron. Here it is found out that Madison has left her husband. Now she lives alone in her own house. Madison asks Ron or somewhere. She thanks Gary that she was able to do all this because of his advice. Madison was slowly getting attracted towards Ron, and she started liking him more when he saw her playing with small children and dogs. Madison tells Ron that the way you live doesn't seem like you are a hitman. They both made a deal together that Madison will never ask Ron about his work. They will meet only in this house. They will do whatever they want. They both cannot live in a normal relationship like the others. Madison accepts all these rules of Ron. From all this, Gary also did his job of becoming a fake hitman and getting people caught. Then one day, Madison brings a gun from somewhere. Gary gets scared after seeing the gun. Madison tells him to teach me how to use it too, to which Gary says that going out was not in our deal. Madison somehow convinces Gary by talking sweetly. They both go to the club for shooting practice and go dancing. Then right here outside the club, they encounter Madison's ex-husband, Ray. Ray starts asking Madison that, "Are you this man? What are you doing with him?" He starts talking back to him, then Gary angrily points the gun at him. Ray gets scared and retreats. Gary and Madison come back to Madison. She was very happy to see Gary doing this. "You have done an amazing job." They both sit together and start eating ice cream. Gary asks Madison, "Have you been divorced?" To which Madison says, "Can you see the ring on my hand?" But then Jasper sees them sitting there and he comes there and starts talking to Gary. Jasper does not recognize Madison, that she is the same girl whom Gary had let go. Without thinking much, he leaves the place. When he leaves, the next day, Gary, Jasper, and the rest of his team arrive to catch their new criminal. They did not know much about this man, so Gary could not even prepare properly, and when he reaches to meet the man, it turns out to be Madison. Ex-husband Ray Gary sat next to him after beating him. Here, Ray had come to give Gary a contract to kill his wife, i.e. Madison, and her boyfriend, i.e. Run. Here, Gary came to know that till now, Madison and Ray is not even fully divorced. Here, he starts talking back to Madison, which makes Gary angry. Ray brings his face in front of Ray and runs away in fear. Gary has to hear from his team again that that guy suddenly likes this. How did he run away? But Gary leaves all this and first tells Madison about Ray, that he is a hitman with a contract to kill you. He will not let anything happen to him. But the very next day, Ray was murdered. Everyone had suspicions. That Ray died during a drug deal. He was involved in such things. Along with this, the police also learns about a man attacking Ray outside the club. Jasper understands here that the man, it was Gary, and the girl with whom Gary saw Jasper a few days ago is Ray's wife, Madison. But right now, the main suspicion of the police was on Ray's drug dealers, so on Jess, but he did not say much. So Gary came back when Madison. He comes to know that Ray's murder was not done by any drug dealer, but by Madison. Madison, fearing that Ray might kill her, went ahead and killed Ray. Here, out of anger and fear, Gary also kills Madison. Let me tell you that I am not a hitman for whom all this is common. I am just a fake hitman who works for the police. Now even Madison was shocked to know that I don't even know your real name. That's why Gary told the police. Call came to quickly reach the police station, and upon reaching the police station, Gary learns that the main suspect of the police is now Madison. Just 6 months ago, Ray had increased his life insurance policy to $1 million, whose only heir is Madison. So it is possible that it was believed that Madison might have got her husband killed to get the money from this insurance policy, because she had already set out to find a hitman once before, and here she took advantage of the opportunity and found Gary. He asks Gary whether you met Maddie that night or you also have her contact. Jespar asks Gary whether you met her as Ron or as Gary, to which Gary says as Ron, and Jespar says that you are doing a job. Why don't you go and pretend to be Ron again and talk to Madison? She will definitely tell you the truth whether she got her husband killed or not, and we will record all these things, and we will get all the evidence of her. The head liked Jasper's idea, and he sent Gary to meet Madison at her house wearing a microphone. But on the way, Gary prepared some notes with the help of which he could tell Madison everything about this police mission without saying anything. He tells Madison that no matter how much I tell you, don't tell the truth. They make the guy who raised the rapper's ass outside the club and Gary into two different people. Madison made it look like she was in the club. The guy she just met at the club, she doesn't even know his name, they just danced at the club, and then they met Ray outside. Gary and Madison also turn the tables on the insurance policy thing. Madison pretends she has nothing to do with money. At Gary's insistence, Madison throws Gary out of her house, telling him that she had nothing to do with Ray's murder. Her police team also becomes convinced that Madison is responsible for Ray's murder. Jace also agreed that it had nothing to do with the murder, but when Gary returned to Madison at night, Jasper was sitting there to welcome him. Jace's suspicions on him proved to be true with this. Now, if Jasper reports all this to the police, if he tells, Madison will be jailed and the police will fire Gary, so Jasper will get his job back as a fake hitman, but Jasper will no longer have his old job as Ray's life insurance policy. He wants the money. If Gary and Madison give him the money, he will keep quiet and won't tell anyone. Madison agrees to give the money, but then something starts happening to Jasper. He can't speak properly, he can't breathe. He becomes unconscious. Madison tells him that I had mixed drugs in his beer. Maybe it was too much. Now there is an unconscious policeman lying in front of both of them. Gary wakes up, he covers Jasper's mouth with an envelope and says that now he is a hitman. They will have to show that Jasper's death was suicide after taking drugs. Both Madison and Gary express their love for each other, and gradually, due to lack of breathing, Jazz also dies in the story time. Gary went a little further and is continuing his life by becoming a teacher. He had a little girl and a boy. Gary's life with Madison is going smoothly. Friends, with this story ends here. You will be shocked to know that this story is almost based on a true story, except that killing Ray and Jasper in the end was imaginary. How did you like this story? Thanks for watching.